All right, everybody, I'm back finally. I got my parts in. I decided to go ahead and just rebuild the starter clutch on this one, or just replace the starter clutch. I told you all that I would find the part number and let you know. Well, this is the part number that comes from J&P Cycles. Now, just so you know, I tried to get a hold of Indian dealerships and everybody else to find out the part number that I needed for this bike or what have you, and they weren't too forthcoming with information on it. They did want to charge me like over $100 just for a starter clutch, and I got this one through J&P Cycles, and this is the box with the all balls number on it. And just so you know, this is basically the same starter clutch as for a 99 Harley Softail. So now what we're going to do is we're going to tear the starter apart and replace the starter clutch. This is the starter clutch. No big deal, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do it. You do need a 5/16 socket. You want to take these two long bolts out. There's two long bolts, one on each side. You just got to be kind of careful. You don't want to over torque anything on this, whether you're putting it together or taking it apart. If it's not coming apart real easy, you might want to look into it and find out why, because it shouldn't be real hard to come apart. This is your jack shaft. You can just slide it off and get it out of the way. Now, right in here, you've got two 5/32 Allen head bolts in here. And you want to hold pressure, hold these together, because this is spring loaded in here, and once you take these out, it will pop apart on you. There's the Allen head bolts. You may have to tap it just a little bit to get it to separate. But keep your hand in front of it, because like I said, it is spring loaded. You can just set that part of the starter aside. That spring came out of here, and I've seen a couple videos on rebuilding these starters on the internet, and none of them that I've seen tells you anything at all about that little bearing right there. You don't want to lose that. It goes right back inside this shaft, and this spring right here rides on it. You don't want to lose that, so you can just take that out, lay that off to the side for right now. Now this is your reduction gear at the bottom. Right here's your starter clutch. This is what we're replacing. Just got to kind of work with that reduction gear a little bit and get it out of there. And then this is your little roller bearings that goes inside the reduction gear. And now some of these you may have to take and tap them out from this side with a socket or what have you. This one, I had it out a little earlier, so it comes out a little easier. And as you can see, there's a little rubber O-ring right in here. And they recommend you to replace that, but I'm not replacing it this time. This is my new starter clutch. You can see it's generally the same thing. There is a difference, but I've checked on it already. If you look, my old one has a spacer here and a narrower gear. The new one does not have a spacer and has a wider gear. But I've already checked on that, and that's fine. That's perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little grease, not a lot, just a little bit. Just put it around the outside of this bearing, just so that when it goes in there, it just makes it a little easier sliding past that seal. Most of them will drop in. Some of them you may have to kind of tap them in a little bit. Just like that. Now, this bearing came with a new shaft spring, so I'm going to be doing away with that. This is your shaft spring. We'll be changing that out. That'll go right back in there like that. And now the reduction gear, which I'm going to put a little bit of fresh grease down in here. It don't take a whole lot. It really doesn't, so don't overdo it. And just so you all know, if you haven't figured it out already, I am not a motorcycle mechanic, by no means. I tend to work on all my own stuff, whether it's my motorcycles, four-wheelers, cars, whatever. I trust myself more than I do anybody else. And I just figured I would take the opportunity and try to help somebody if I can. But now you want to push this in. This will go in and lock in. Well, it won't lock in, but you got to hold it on this side. When you get ready to put this together, you hold onto that shaft, and that keeps that down. And then this little shaft right here goes in the center of this spring. Just like that. And everything should pop right together, just like that. And you got to hold on to it, like I said, because it is spring loaded, while you start your screws back. Oh, I almost forgot. I was going to put a little bit of Loctite on those. Don't put a whole lot of Loctite on there. I do it just because I guess I'm anal, but it doesn't take a whole lot. And these torque down to 60 inch-pounds. You just want to run them down by hand until they bottom out. And then that'll hold your case together up there at top while you start these. Again, I'm just going to put just a dab of Loctite on them. Just enough, basically, just to say I done it. And I'm not going to tighten it up all the way. I'm just going to run it down snug, and then I'll get the other one in and run them down evenly. You don't want to tighten one side up and then try to tighten the other side up. Because what you'll do is you'll put your case in a bind and end up stripping out your threads. But this isn't a difficult job by no means. Just a few basic tools and a little bit of time, and you can save yourself quite a bit of money by doing it yourself. And as you can see, like I said, I'm not a mechanic by no means of measure. I just pretty much take care of my own stuff. And that's pretty much it. And then you've got your jack shaft that will go right back on here. And let me point out something here that's pretty important on this jack shaft. If this slides off while you're working on it or whatever, it does go on in a specific way. If you look inside, you see that little keeper ring inside there. You've got one side is long and one side is short. The long side goes towards the starter. You don't want to try to put it on like this. The long side goes towards the starter. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. And this is that 7/16 bolt that was inside the primary that I told you about that I had to get out when my battery was going dead before. This is the little keeper on the side. Whenever you take your primary cover off, this is what you'll see. It's just like this looking back at you. You just take a screwdriver and pry this little keeper back out of the way, and then take a 7/16 socket and take this bolt loose. Pull it right out, then the jack shaft will come off, and then you can take your starter off. But that's basically it for rebuilding the starter or replacing the starter clutch. Like I said, it's no big deal. Don't let it intimidate you. Tear into it, you'll be surprised. And I hope you all find this helpful. And when I get ready to put it back on, I'll make another video for installation. See y'all.